We're going to start talking about college a little bit. And as you can see up there, it says that college is not a real life setting. Yes, it is real life, but it's not the way you're going to live for the rest of your life, and you certainly don't want to live for the rest of your life in dorms, or even as nice as the dorms are now. You don't want to live in that sort of a environment. Now, just to make you feel better about wherever you're going to college, let me describe to you the living situation in, say, the early 1980s in colleges. And this is my story. So my freshman year, I was on the first floor of a co-ed dorm. The dorm was co-ed by level, right? Sometimes that's not true anymore. It's just co-ed everywhere. But there were 2 bathrooms on that floor, and probably, I think there were 14 we called them corridors, but it was one long hall. 2 corridors of about 14 girls each. So about 28 girls, 2 bathrooms. And when you went to the bathroom, or when you wanted to take a shower, you had to take everything with you. You couldn't just leave it there. So you had the shower caddy with everything in it, and you took it down. And then sometimes you had to wait quite a long time because there were 3 showers for 14 girls. And then once you were in that shower, and it wasn't very clean, and it had this flimsy little thing that covered it. And unfortunately, whenever the toilets flushed, the water turned completely hot. It took off all of the cold water, and it was left with hot water. So in every stall of the bathroom, on the back of the door was a big sign that said, like you're yelling, flush. You were just supposed to yell flush before you flushed. But of course, people like me forget stuff like that, and a lot of other people did. And so there were a lot of times when you heard, ah, and somebody said, sorry, you don't want to live like that for the rest of your life. Even worse, in the sports locker rooms, and for my entire sophomore year, I had to deal with gang showers. You know this idea of gang showers. It's like a big room with like 6 different shower heads, and everybody's just looking at each other taking a shower.
It's like
so but I made it out. Even with the nicer dorms nowadays, you don't want to live that way for the rest of your life. It is I see college as a deferment from adulthood. And once and now you'll meet some of your best friends you'll have. My best friends are still my college best friends. And you'll learn a lot, and you'll grow a lot, although I will say that in February of my senior year, I wrote a poem called Almost 22, saying that I thought I would be all grown up at 22, and I wasn't all grown up at 22. And I wrote one when I was 23, too. And then when I was 24, I wrote one that said, oh, guess what? I'm an adult, just in more poetic words. But you do grow a lot. You do learn a lot, and you learn a lot about living in community. And hopefully someday you'll live in community again, in a family, right, of your own. But it isn't like real life, where you have your own apartment or your own home or something like that. We had a quad my junior year, and we had our own bathroom in that quad. But you're probably not ever again going to sleep with 3 other people in the same room, right? Unless they're your children come in the middle of the night and get in bed with you. So it's not a real life setting, but it is a setting in which you can learn a lot about yourself, a lot about friendships, a lot about relationships. We talked about this yesterday, and I think I told you this. I want to talk about marriage just a little bit, because have you heard this, that like marriage is 50-50? Right? Have you heard this idea that marriage should be 50-50? Right? Everybody doing the same amount of work. Okay, so that's a myth. That's a myth. And it's not biblical. So here's the thing. Here's what happens when you say, okay, we're going to have a 50-50 marriage. What happens is, and I'll just use, and Jeff and I don't have a 50-50 marriage, but whatever. But what happens is you look at your spouse's 50, and you think it's about 25, and yours is 75. And he looks at yours and is like, oh, like 60 or 40. It's all from your perspective. And it's not a biblical view of marriage. The biblical view of marriage is 100-100. We give ourselves over to that person to love and to serve that person, both men and women. And I talked to you about what Paul says, that women are to submit to their husbands, but husbands are to love their wives as Christ loved the church and gave it himself up for us. So in a marriage situation, and especially in a dating situation too, we need to have accountability. And if you are in a dating relationship, I would counsel you to find someone you trust that's older than you. It can't be one of your friends. And ask that person, that wise older person, to keep you accountable. And then be honest with that person. Guys, for you, it needs to be a man. Girls, for you, it needs to be a girl. Don't make a boy. Don't make your boyfriend your accountability partner. That doesn't work. And then be honest with that person. If you have a good accountability partner, they're not going to yell at you. They're not going to put you down. They're not going to say, "Why? How could you do that? That was stupid." They're going to counsel you and help you grow in your walk of faith, especially as you're dating, because we have a tendency to get really wrapped up in that other person, and that's not healthy. Oh, you're okay. That's what I heard. Okay. Okay. So yeah, find an accountability partner, not a friend, an older person, and be honest. And it needs to be somebody that's more spiritually mature than you are. And then let that person ask you tough questions and answer them truthfully. Because if you're going to lie, it's going to be no help. Tell them the truth. I go every 6 months to my cardiologist. I do myself no good if I say, "Oh, it's all fine. I don't have any new symptoms. I don't, I'm fine." If something happens, if I'm having symptoms, I need to tell him because he's the one that can help me, right? And that's true of your accountability partner as well. So choose an accountability partner that will tell you the truth, and then be willing to be completely honest with that person. Okay, so I also want to go back to the boys and girls thing, because this is just the general truth about dating relationships. and in dating relationships where there is pressure to have sex. By and large, boys give love to get sex, and girls give sex to get love. In other words, what I'm saying is that they will tell, boys will sometimes, not good boys, but some other boys, will tell you what you want to hear in order to get what they want. And girls will give it in order to feel that love. And only one person wins in that proposition. Only one person gets what they want. So don't give in to that. And if he is pressuring you, and I mean, a couple of times I've heard the other way around. If she is pressuring you, run away. Don't walk away. Run away. It's not going to get better. He's not going to suddenly change when you get married. And I think that's what people think. Well, once we get married, then he'll be, he won't treat me that way. He won't. No, he will, and it will likely get worse. I told you the story of my roommate and how disrespectful her boyfriend was to her. It wasn't going to get better just because they know. There's nothing magical about getting married. It's a commitment. It's a contract to love and to cherish all the days of your life. And in our marriage, it was as long as we lived together, because I didn't want the word death. So it means the same thing, but it sounded prettier. But it's not. I think guys and gals think, well, he'll change, she'll change once we're married. If you can't, if it bothers you before marriage, it's going to bother you, and probably bother you. So be very careful about who you marry. So this was about the time in the last class that the class got me to tell some stories. So I'll tell you a couple of stories, and then we'll wrap up. So I've told you that I met Jeff in church. I walked into the church for the first time, and he was ushering, and I asked my sister, "Who is that?" And she said, "That's Jeff Keezer, and he was cute, and he was in church, and that was his friend." But then I went back and taught at Colorado for another year and a half. But I didn't forget him. I thought I still, when I went home, I saw him and all that. But we didn't talk to each other. We didn't know each other. In fact, and this is a bit of a bone of contention in our 37.5-year marriage. I was in the choir at this small church one summer, and he didn't notice me. And he didn't notice me when he noticed my sister, because she was laughing after he had given me the program. He remembers that. He doesn't remember seeing me. And then also, he was at a softball game where I was playing, and I knew he was there because he was in the stands, and he made me nervous. And I thought that maybe I would mess up. But what I remember doing is taking a ball from outside second base and pegging it right into the catcher's mitt, and the girl was out at the plate. And he doesn't remember seeing me, knowing of me, anything, until I moved back.
Fox moment.
But that's, yeah, I probably didn't know about that then. So fast forward to the summer of 1985. I am on the church softball team, and we are practicing, and the men are practicing after us. And I notice Jeff, because I notice Jeff, but I notice that he is, like all the guys are playing catch with each other, he's playing catch with the pastor's 6-year-old son. And I know, that's what I thought. That's exactly what I thought. And at one point, so I'm at first base. I don't know why I'm at first base, because I was usually shortstop, but whatever. I was at first base. I'm glad I was because Kevin, the boy, threw the thing over the fence, and I picked it up and I threw it to Jeff, and Jeff said, "Thanks, Amy."
Oh, he knows your name?
He knew my name. He knew my name. Here we go. So I go home. I run into the house. My whole family is home, including my brother-in-law. Oh, I told the class their story too. I should do that. So I come in and I say to everybody, Jeff Keyser and I said our first words to each other. And so they said, well, what did he say? And I said, he said, thanks, Amy. And I said, sure. And my very sarcastic brother-in-law said, you should be careful saying that to a guy. So then that same summer, our young adults group had a outing, a day and an afternoon and an evening at our cabin, at our lake cabin. I was waiting for Jeff to come to decide if I was going to water ski or not. Because if he was going to come, I was not going to water ski. So he didn't come, and he didn't come, and he didn't come. So I said to my dad, fire up the boat. I'm going to ski. So I'm in the water. My ski's in the air. I'm holding on to the ropes. And I turn around because I hear something, and it's Jeff coming down the sand. And he says, is this a shot for the wild world of sports? And I said, only if I get up. And I wasn't sure. I always got up, but he was there. But I did, and went around and stuff. And it was that night when we were playing Trivial Pursuit that he decided to ask me out. And so gentlemen, take notes. So the next Sunday, I was upstairs talking to people, and the fellowship hall was downstairs, and the stairs went like this and this and this. And I came around the corner to go down to the other level, and Jeff's head was like this, and then he pulled it back, and I'm like, that's odd. What's that about? What's going on? So I go down, and he comes up and he starts talking to me, and he starts talking to me about Platte River State Park. And have I ever been to Platte River State Park? And I said, no, I've never been there. And he starts telling me, now you have to know that I had a raging ear infection, so I was only getting like every other word. And he's telling me all about Platte River State Park, and in my head, these are my thoughts. It sounds like he's going to ask me out for a date. But with my luck, he's just going to say, well, you should go there sometime and walk away. But no, he did ask me out. He said, well, the reason I'm telling you this is, would you like to go to Platte River State Park with me this afternoon? And so I went to my father after that, and I said, I think Jeff Keyser just asked me out, and I'm pretty sure he's picking me up at 3 o'clock. So just in case, I'm going to be ready to go at 3 o'clock. And it was a great place to have a first date because we ate fried chicken. He brought all the food, and we talked to each other. We learned about each other, and it was really nice first date. So we married 364 days after that date. Less than a year, one day less than a year. But we were a little bit older when we got married. I was 25, he was almost 29. And I think we both knew kind of what we wanted. I knew I needed somebody like this because I'm this. And and that's what I got. And he's just a kind, gentle, wonderful man. Yeah.
You may have already told the story, but how annoying. How athletic.
The best part about this story is I love surprises. He's not great at surprises. And so our date the night before, because my first clue was he asked me out for a date. Like we usually are like, hey, do you want to come over? Do you want to, no, I've got class tonight. No, I've got schoolwork to do. And there wasn't really, would you like to go here with me? And he, I don't know if he said it to me face to face. but he said, would you like to go out to dinner with me on Friday night or Saturday night, whatever it was? And I was like, wow, okay, yeah. And then I did have this idea, like, is he going to propose? I mean, on my birthday, so February 22nd of 86, that was like our DTR, and we knew we were going to get married. It's a long story, but that was the night that we knew. You know, he said to me, do you ever think about the future? And I said, do you mean us? And he said, yes. And so, so we knew so I knew it was coming, but I didn't know when. But he asked me out, and my parents were out of town, which is interesting. He's been teased for that. He waited for my dad to be out of town to propose. But, what? Oh, determine the relationship.
Okay. So how long were you guys together?
We were 25 to 28.
No. How long
September, October, November, December, January, February. 6 months.
6 months?
6 months almost exactly. Yeah. Right. Okay. So, we go out the night before, and he's saying goodbye to me at my parents' house because it was a lot closer to where he lived than my apartment. And when he's hugging me goodbye, he says, tomorrow night might be pretty special for us.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding? I would be like, that's so funny. We need to protect this woman at all costs. Why?
So I was at my parents' house. I know why I was at my parents' house. I was at my parents' house because they were out of town and I was babysitting my middle school sister. So I go in and I'm like, because I'd said, I think Jeff might be proposing to me. And I walk in, I'm pretty sure he's going to propose to me. And so she's like, okay, I'm going to Keely's house tomorrow night. You have to call me if he does. And he did. And he picked me up and he took me to my favorite restaurant, which is no longer even a building, but it was called Scribbles. And it had white paper and crayons on the table, and you could draw things. And it was in the old. It was in the old market. It was a really beautiful building, really good food, and but I guess before that, I think it was before we did that. He picked me up and he took me to our church because he knew the story that my father proposed to my mother in the old cadet chapel at West Point because he wanted their marriage to begin, their life to begin based on Jesus, based on faith. And so he took me to the sanctuary of our church where we met, and he proposed to me there. And then we went to the old market. We had dinner and went on a carriage ride. So yeah, so it was a wonderful evening, especially for a guy that isn't.
And you just had no idea.
I didn't. I had an idea.
Yeah.
No, I was joking.
Not like you said it was going to be special.
He had also asked me my ring size, so that was a good one.
Yeah, girls always
So anyway, so when you're all of that was college is not a real life stuff. So what else?
Let's start with your stepbrother.
So don't settle for less than the best. Don't get to a place like I'm 25 at this time, and I could have been felt like I was desperate. I felt like I was old, an old bride. I wasn't. But there was this guy in Colorado that I didn't know, and I don't think I even knew his name. But he would come every night to the school to lift weights. And one night I was in the office, and he walks in, and he says, "Hey, would you want to go out to dinner with me sometime?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Why?" And I said, I don't know you. And yeah, I didn't know his name. I didn't know if he was a good guy. I wasn't going to put myself in a situation when I didn't know this guy's character. And so, I mean, you have to be wise about that, and don't be in such a hurry to get married that you glom on. That glom is one of my mom's words. Glom on to someone who isn't what is best for you. So don't settle for less than the best. And I mean, we don't have a perfect marriage. We don't, by any stretch of the imagination, have a perfect marriage. But I think our children would tell you that we have a loving marriage and that we are kind to one another, and that we are, that we grow in faith together. Most of that is because of how wonderful he is. And then guard your heart. And again, women tend to put their heart out there more easily than men do. And guard your heart. Don't go places that are not healthy and productive for you. And when I say go places, like, I'm not talking about going to a bar or something. Don't go places in a relationship where that isn't best for you. And if he pressures you for anything, if she pressures you for anything, if the person tries to talk you into things that you don't want to do, that is, drop them and run. I mean, it's not going to get better, and you're going to regret having entertained those thoughts or giving into those things. So, for God so loved the world, He gave. He didn't take. And love always does what is best for the one loved, because love loves to give. Lust always takes from the one that is being lusted after, because lust loves. And it is not love. If he says, if you love me, if she says, if you love me, you'll. I don't care what comes after that, you'll. He doesn't love you. She doesn't love you. It doesn't matter what it is. If love cannot be contingent on you doing what I want you to do, that's not love. Don't be in a hurry to find someone, whether that's someone to date or someone to marry. Don't be in a hurry. You can only mature from here, so don't be in a hurry. Okay? Okay, we're done.